What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at a little bit of news and rumors, a little bit of a mix of both. The Maple Leafs wanting to retool and maybe rebuild that blue line a little bit, and that's been a topic of discussion in this offseason. And what do they have to do to get there? And there's a move today that's kind of been going around Twitter and going around the news a little bit, talking about a specific defenseman. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. I am trying to make this my full-time gig. I want to make this my full-time job, doing YouTube and doing content. So if you could support me by liking and subscribing, that would help a lot. I know a ton of you guys aren't subscribed, but trust me, lots of content is coming, and there's already been a ton this offseason. So I do appreciate the support. But I want to get into looking at this team, and clearly we can see they have negative $3 million in cap space, but you can see there's a couple extra forwards here. There's an extra defenseman, an extra goalie. They're going to make it work, and by all accounts, we know that they're more than likely going to be making a trade. There's going to be a move made. There's probably going to be multiple moves made because this team should be far from done. But what the big thing and the biggest rumor that's been going around since the start of the offseason, and, when Brad Treliving became the GM of the Maple Leafs, was that they wanted to overhaul this defense. They wanted to redo it. And, we've seen people like Justin Hall leave this team. We've seen over the years just pieces kind of interchange and guys going in and out. We've seen big moves even last year with McCabe coming in. And now we're seeing, Rasmus Sandin, but now we're seeing, John Klingberg, and we're seeing potentially Connor Timmins may be playing a role on this team. Is Timothy Liljegren going to take a big step? But what we keep hearing is the potential of trading TJ Brody, who statistically and from 90% of the season took on probably the most defensive responsibility and was one of the best, if not the best, defenseman on the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's been the big trade piece talk, whatever, because of maybe a previous relationship with Brad Treliving, and also the fact that he's being paid $5 million for one more year on his contract. And by all accounts, he still has good positive trade value. Like, this is a top 3, top 2 defenseman who plays a really solid defensive role that a lot of teams would be willing to take on. Now, like I said before, if they are going to be redoing this blue line, if they're going to be making things happen, John Klingberg can't be the only guy that you go after. He can't be your big splash because, sure, maybe he has, this offensive season that brings him back to what he used to be at before. Because remember, this is a guy that in Dallas wanted an 8-year deal, and he wanted, $7 or $8 million per season, and now he's on a 1-year contract. This is a guy that's trying to prove himself. But what's been the rumors a little bit is Andrew Peeke, and I'm not sure if it's Peeke, but I believe it's pronounced Peeke. But he's young. He's 25 years old. His cap hit is $2.75 million, and he's got a couple years left on that contract. Now, we know that the Blue Jackets, bringing in Mike Babcock, they brought in some new defensemen. They've got some spots where they are probably going to be pushing guys out of the lineup. And this is a guy that has some trade value. According to Chris Johnston, he's saying that this is a guy that teams have been calling on because he's young, he's cost controllable. But I think what a lot of people are ignoring, just because, he's a bigger guy, that doesn't necessarily mean he's good. And I do have a little bit of a previous knowledge on this guy, just knowing that he is pretty big. He's a tall guy. I believe he's like 6'2", 6'3". And I know that he blocks a lot of shots because I like using the site called StatMuse because they always have all these great stats, and we're going to actually show that here. When I was making videos on Luke Shen and Mark Giordano and talking about the blue line, his name was on there in terms of block shots. And like I said, we will get to that. But I want to give a shout out to Editor and Leaf because they had this article when I was doing a bit of research and trying to see basically if there was more news on it. So I was reading this article, and I thought it was very important to give a shout out to this website. Who's the editor? James Tanner on this one, bringing up a tweet from Leafs Updates and people that were talking about Andrew Peeke could potentially be a target. He's basically saying that the Maple Leafs don't need a guy like him if it's going to mean giving up a guy like TJ Brody in a trade or giving up meaningful assets, because he's not very good defensively. Now, I have a little bit of an opposite opinion of this, but I'll get to that in a second. His numbers are horrible. It's in this article here. Basically, the worst or second worst on Columbus in every category. In most categories, Eric Branson had worse numbers, but he is a well-known terrible player, which I think is a little bit harsh. But Peeke was starting only the third most defensive zone starts per game on Columbus, and even if we account for his bad team, bad teammates, and bad goalie, his numbers are horrendous, because we do know that Columbus was really bad last season. But last year, the Blue Jackets were outscored 91-44 with him on the ice. Again, I need to step in here a little bit, because first of all, again, shout out to the article putting together some numbers and stuff like that. It helps me explain it and show it to you guys a little bit better. But the Blue Jackets were terrible. Like, there's part of this that says their goalies had like a save percentage of just 88% when he was on the ice. So the goalies weren't making saves. They were well below league average. But if he was being sheltered a little bit in Columbus and still being pumped like that, it's probably not good. But what I was trying to figure out was, okay, is he an upgrade on Justin Hall? He's younger, a little bit younger, but they kind of play similar styles, defensive defenseman that still gets burned here and there. But I'm wondering if the Leafs bring him in, if they potentially pair him with a guy like Mark Giordano on the third pairing and let him learn a little bit from a guy like that. Now, like I said, I don't think that that's a great idea, because I think he should be sheltered with a really defensive defenseman like a TJ Brody, ironically. But if you look at StatMuse, he was top 4 in the league in block shots. Like I said, he's a big guy. He hits, he blocks shots. He's not overly physical, but he can kind of play that role. And I believe that was also stated in that Editor in Leaf post by James Tanner. But the Maple Leafs have to be careful if they're just going to try to nitpick and try to make deals like this, which, again, this is not saying that this is going to happen, but if they were looking at a defenseman like this and it's almost a project, you can't have all these different projects on the team, because by all accounts, Connor Timmins is still very much a project. Mark Giordano isn't getting any younger. John Klingberg is a project. Timothy Liljegren continues to be a bit of a project, even though I do believe in him quite a bit. So if you bring in another guy that you're not really sure has established himself and is going to be a great defenseman for this team, even, a top 4 guy, he can play 20 minutes a night, but I don't know if you take that risk at $3 million for the next 3 years. For him just to be another whipping boy, to be another, class clown by Leaf fans, much like Justin Hall. Even though I think Justin Hall had some pretty good moments, maybe this guy, falls under the same category. But like I said, the Leafs just have to be very careful. And if they were to do something like this, again, this is just kind of something that's been circulating. I know there has been some accounts with a few sources that have been saying that this is something that's been kicked around. I'm not here to say it is or isn't going to happen. My personal opinion is that I don't believe this is a guy that the Leafs would go after. Because it's the offseason and I love making content, I love talking hockey, I figured this would be something that we could at least talk about and you guys could sound off in the comments on. Would you trade a TJ Brody for cap space plus a young project defenseman that you could potentially see get better defensively? Or do you want the Leafs to go after a more stable top 4 guy? Because I'm in that boat. I would love for the Leafs to truly go out there and acquire a top 4 defenseman. But again, that's going to come at the cost of eliminating somebody who is a significant piece on your roster. And again, we can get into the whole William Nylander stuff again, but we've done that in many videos, and I'm sure we're going to do it more. So if you are new here, like I said, I'm really trying to get to my goal of being a full-time content creator. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, join the squad. I really appreciate you guys. Truly, I'm not just saying that for extra clicks. You guys are truly helping me achieve my dreams, and that's something that I really do appreciate. So again, if you're new, like, subscribe. Like, there's so many of you guys. It's like almost 70% on every video is not subscribed. If you love Leafs, if you love hockey, trust me, I've got lots of good stuff coming up. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Sound off in the comments. Peace.